Hello, welcome to a Psalm for today, your reassuring voice that Jesus is Lord. He is King over the flood, the song says. I will be still and know that He is God. Thank you for watching today. Many of our viewers today are deeply moved with the sudden passing of one of our dear friends, Michael Brown. There are probably a million Michael Browns in the world. This is Michael Brown from Anchorage, Alaska, Malden Community Assembly, whose parents are Warren and Trish Brown, and whose sister is Haven. And the Browns were rattled, as were all of us, with the news that the boat that Michael was a crew member on sank, evidently rapidly. No time to put on their life suits, and maybe even no time to get in a lifeboat. I don't know the details, but I do know that the Coast Guard searched diligently in the midst of storm-like waves, storm-like weather, and then today said it's time to stop the search. And so I think it's fair to say that I'm presenting this psalm for today, a psalm of the reassuring voice that Jesus is Lord, on a day when one of our beloved sons, brothers, friends is considered officially lost at sea. I am a raving fan of the Psalms. I particularly like a guy named Walter Brueggemann's take on the Psalms, which he adopted these three words from a philosopher named Ricoeur. But he said the Psalms show us a life that is oriented. And as you read your psalm, you will find that the psalmist is oriented. Then comes a season of disorientation. And everything that you thought was up feels down. Everything you thought was left seems right. Everything you thought was north seems south. And so the Psalms take us through this life of oriented into a season of disoriented. And then the Psalms bring us around and to a place of reorientation. And undoubtedly, those of us who know and love Michael Brown of Anchorage, Alaska, can deeply feel that this is a season of disorientation. Disorientation can be marked by shock. Disorientation can be marked by surprise. Disorientation can be marked by denial. Disorientation can be marked by anger. Disorientation can be marked by withdrawal, depression, fear. All kinds of things can mark a season of disorientation. And the psalmist writes to give us guidance, to give us a beacon through those seasons of disorientation. And so oriented, disoriented, and then the psalmists bring us around in the various psalms. Only, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 psalms don't reorient throughout the entire Psalter. But they bring us to a place of reorientation. And when you have a loss, such as we have with the capsizing of a boat, you have no evidence of death. You have secondary evidence. You have no eyewitnesses. You have no remains. You have nothing to prove that a death has occurred. So there's some ambiguity around a passing such as this. At the same time, the brain holds out hope. We sorrow not as others who have no hope. And so even in our sorrow, we keep hoping. And this is an ambiguity type situation. It's like, I feel like Michael could walk through the door at any time, knowing in the part of the brain that the evidence is that he walked through eternity's door and is present with the Lord. And so it's this orient suddenly became disorientation. And over time, the different cycles and feelings and phases, and there's no term. It's just kind of in and out, and how everybody responds differently. This season of disorientation, we come back to a place of being reoriented. And we would never pretend to know where somebody else should be in the Psalms. We should never say, man, you should be oriented by now, or you should be reoriented, or if I were you, I'd be disoriented, or if I were you, I wouldn't be disoriented. All these little platitudes and things aren't really helpful. I think the thing that's helpful is to say all of us have a measure of orientation, disorientation, and reorientation on a million things in our lives all at the same time. For example, I'm in the backyard of our new home, and I love our home, but it still doesn't exactly feel like home. But other times it feels exactly like home. So I'm disoriented in my own location to some degree, and I'm reoriented in my new location. And it's the flexibility of human emotions. And so oriented, disoriented, reoriented. Today in the Psalm, we're using the 1 Year Bible. Today is December 2nd, when I'm making this live stream, is Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. Now, it is sort of a question. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? It's sort of a question. Whence cometh my help? But it is a question whose answer is known. The question is not, I don't know where my help comes from. The answer is, I know where my help comes from. But I'm going to ask anyways, because by asking, it gives you the opportunity to answer. And you answer, and it gives more strength even to the point. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. The hills would represent Mount Zion. The hills are those hills where you would have the temple. Those hills are where the glory of the Lord would rest between the wings of the cherubim in the Holy of Holies. And so the psalmist is reminding us that in the seasons of disorientation, we can ask, where does my help come from? Knowing the answer, but we still ask it. If I say our hope is the resurrection of Jesus, I know that, but I still want to say, what is our hope? Our hope is the resurrection. And so my help cometh from the Lord. And there's some cool things about the Lord. He won't sleep. He won't suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The sun shall not smite thee by day. The Lord shall preserve thee. These are sentences of reorientation. These are called the psalm. This is one of the Psalms of Ascent that you would say on your way up to 3 times a year. Jewish people went up to Mount Zion at least 3 times a year, 3 mandatory times a year. And as they would ascend the holy hill, they would remind themselves that it is the Lord that bringeth our hope. The Lord is our hope. And in this crisis for the Brown family, for Malden Community Assembly, and for those of us who love and know Michael, we do not speak of him in the past tense, because to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And so he's more present, alive now than he's ever been in his life. I want to simply encourage you today to remember Jesus is Lord in the seasons of orientation. Jesus is Lord in the seasons of disorientation. And Jesus is Lord in the season of reorientation. Listen to this poem. It's called The Present Crisis. Careless seems the great avenger. History's pages but record one death grapple in the darkness, twixt old systems and the word. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. Listen to where God is in the disorientation. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. In the season of orientation, God is there. In the season of disorientation, God is there. In the season of reorientation, God is there. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. I'm remembering as I talk to you the song I would sing with all my heart as a teenager and even as a child. Standing somewhere in the shadows, you'll find Jesus. Brothers and sisters, Jesus is in the shadows. Jesus is also in the light where there are no shadows. There is no shadow of turning with thee, right? But he's also the God who's with us in the season of disorientation. And so for those of you grieving today with me, had a good cry a little while ago. For those of you that are grieving with me today, I pray that you would have a strong sense that in this season of disorientation, we don't have to deny it. We don't have to pretend we're not disoriented. I love the NIV of Abraham. It says, though facing the facts that his body was as good as dead. Right? We're facing the facts. The facts is there's been a terrible storm, a boat is capsized, and our friend has been lost at sea. At the same time, we keep our faith. And so there used to be this battle between faith or facts. I think it's both, that we hold on to the facts by our faith, and then we hold on to our faith when there are no facts. Here's my prayer for you and me today. Watch, O Lord, with those who wake, or watch, or weep tonight. And give your angels charge over those who sleep. Tend your sick ones, O Lord Christ. Rest your weary ones. Bless your dying ones. Soothe your suffering ones. Pity your afflicted ones. Shield your joyous ones. And all for love's sake. Amen.